Good evening to all my fellow Skolgers. Welcome back to a Zafa Talk episode. Tonight we're going to keep it a little short and sweet, but would like to talk about a couple things going on in the Minnesota sports world. Obviously, with the hockey talk, we'll address that more on the SkolNBolts episode, the next episode, which is coming very soon. Thank you guys for all the support on the YouTube channel. I appreciate it, as well as Cactus. We really do appreciate it. Trying to grow this channel, and obviously with the football season ending, we're trying to find ways to fill content, which for us is hockey. So we're going to talk some hockey in this episode here. But we want to talk a little bit about the Vikings and what's going on. Obviously, General Manager Kwesi had some things to say during his press conference, which we'll talk about right now, actually. A lot of people, obviously, Vikings Twitter is very toxic. It's extremely toxic. Everybody is, it's like a headbutting contest nonstop. It's the Cousins Crusaders versus the Cousins haters, you know? And it's like, there's no in between. You're either on one side or the other, and that means you have to fight with everyone on Twitter. Vikings Twitter sucks. I'm going to be straight up. I'm a member of it. Guilty. 100%. Vikings Twitter sucks. It's so obnoxious. But we're going to visit, what was talked about on Vikings Twitter. I'm not going to go over any tweets that happened. We're going to just talk about some of the things that happened. So, with Kwesi's press conference, we're going to talk about, the three major takeaways. It's February. Or, actually, technically now it's March. My apologies. We still have over a month to go until the draft. There's so much time in between. What's going to happen? The big question, as always, is quarterback. What's going to happen at quarterback? It was addressed. Kwesi says that Kirk Cousins meets the threshold and that he can win. He can win, a championship. Is essentially what I got out of it, is that he's capable of winning. But the Cousins Crusaders obviously want us to trade our future away. Not the Cousins Crusaders, I'm sorry. The Cousins haters want us to trade away our future to draft a quarterback this year and go all in. Seems a little silly to me, but so be it. Regardless, Kirk is under contract through this season. So the question is, do we let him play out his contract and then move on from Kirk, which carries a hefty cap hit? Or do we extend him? Now, from the reports that I've seen, these one-year extensions that we've been doing, which does help the cap space, that seems to be off the table for this one. I don't know how true that is. That's just what I've read. But the one-year extension seems to be off the table now. So, Vikings Twitter's in crisis mode. Do we let Kirk play out his final year and let him walk while drafting a quarterback to let him sit behind him for 1 year and then hand the keys to the ship to them? Or do we sign Kirk to a decent extension? 3 years, maybe 4 years? I'm going to be straight up. I say extend Kirk. That's where I'm at. And I'm not sitting here saying that I am the biggest Kirk Cousins fan in the world. I like Kirk. I do. I think he's the best quarterback we've had in a long time. Forget about the 4th and 8 check down. I'm willing to overlook that. Based on what we've had previous to Kirk, I think it needs to be done. build around him. And I think that is going to be a major factor in Justin Jefferson's contract. He's going to want a solid, solidified quarterback. Him and Kirk, they have that connection. Kirk is that solid, solidified quarterback. You want Jefferson to stick around? I think you need to keep Cousins around, and you can draft a quarterback at some point to sit behind him, but I personally am not willing to roll the dice. That's me. Another point that he made was at the on the defensive side at linebacker. He did not mention Jordan Hicks, and he did not mention Eric Kendricks. So I think it's happening that we're gonna see us moving on from Eric Kendricks. And big Eric Kendricks fan, big supporter, have been for a long time. He's great. He's amazing. At least he was, and he's regressing. You know, it happens, but with the cap hit, it's just not worth it in my opinion. I think him and Hicks probably need to go. Brian Flores coming in is going to, you know, revitalize that defense a little bit. I think that's something that needs to happen. Maybe I'm in the majority. Maybe I'm in the minority as far as my opinion. I will not shed a tear for Eric Kendricks leaving the team, but I forever have a respect for him. And it's been a joy to watch him play. I do not see him on the roster come the start of the season. And then the third point that's like a big talking point is Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook. Great talent. Great talent. No one can deny that. But is he worth the cap hit? Is he worth what we would be paying him? Most people would say no. $14.1 million. No. I don't think. No offense to Dalvin, but I don't think he's worth that. With his health issues, which was a little bit better this season, but beyond that, he's a great player, don't get me wrong, but running backs are not as valuable to a team as they used to be. These days it's about the receiver and the quarterback. Justin Jefferson is the main focal point of this team. He needs to be extended. He needs the contract. I don't give a fuck what it takes. Get it done. They also say that they want to get Dalvin Tomlinson back. I agree. Adam Thielen. These are things that need to be addressed. Sorry. But team-friendly deals need to happen, which is why I think the Cousins extension needs to happen. Because Kirk Cousins, he's not going to take a pay cut for a one-year deal for at least this coming season. And, excuse me, why would he? He's produced at a pretty decent level for us. I know, haters are going to say, one playoff win, blah, blah, blah. Look at what we've had for many years. Look at what we've had to deal with at quarterback. Christian Ponder, Tavares Jackson, rest in peace. Joe Webb. You know, we got a guy who can perform at a high level. Keep building around him. When the draft comes around, I don't know when you take him, but maybe another wide receiver, an interior offensive lineman. Beef up the secondary. Maybe go linebacker. Maybe go defensive line, like edge rush. I don't know what's going to happen with Zadarius Smith. So, there's a lot of things that need to happen in this offseason. A lot of things. And we're so early that it's hard to speak on it right now. But what we are going to speak on really quick is the Minnesota Wild. So, when me and Cactus first started talking hockey on the SkolNBolts podcast, that was on February 17th. I know that because I live reacted on the podcast to the Minnesota Wild hosting the Dallas Stars. Now, since then, so prior to that, the Wild were kind of struggling. They were kind of middling around the 4th spot in the division. Since then, they beat the Stars. That was live on the podcast. Then they beat the Predators. Then they beat the Kings. Then they beat the Blue Jackets. Then they lost to the Maple Leafs in overtime, so they got a point out of that. Then they beat the Blue Jackets again. Then they beat the Islanders, and that was yesterday or Tuesday. So, I mean, the Wild have gotten hot at the right time. They've made a couple trades. I'm going to save all that for the SkolNBolts podcast. But the Wild are getting hot at the right time right now. It's perfect to see. As we speak right now, the Wild are in second place in the Central Division. They are 3 points behind the Dallas Stars with 21 games to go. Guys, we have revitalized this season. Things are coming together. Kirill Kaprizov is having an unreal season. Unreal. Like, it's actually crazy. Against the Blue Jackets on Sunday, the 26th, we won 3-2 in overtime. He scored all 3 goals. He got the hat trick in overtime. The latest one was Tuesday, where we beat the New York Islanders, who have a decent record. We beat them in a shootout. And, I mean, things are just going right for the boys. Now, I'm not going to, start getting, overly excited about anything because there's a lot of work that needs to be done. But the team is coming together. You love to see it. You love to see it. So, with that being said, SkolNBolts podcast coming to you later this week. We're going to talk the trade deadline because Boston made some moves. Minnesota made a couple moves. I'm going to save it for that. And it's going to be exciting. And we'll see what happens with the roster, with the Minnesota Vikings, as how that goes, as well as the Chargers, for all of our listeners who are Chargers fans. So, stay tuned for that, guys. But until then, please like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel, please. We are trying to grow. We're going to be coming out with more and more content. We now have video-based podcasts, which is a big deal to us. And we're going to keep doing content that doesn't just have to be the podcast. Like this, Zafa Talk, one-on-one with my Minnesota fans. Cactus is going to come up with something. We might have some gaming stuff in there with Madden and NHL, gaming. We're just trying to get some content out there and grow the channel a little bit. So please, if you're not already, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys on the SkolNBolts podcast later this week. Thank you guys. Love y'all. We'll see you later. Go Wild. Go Vikings. To all my Skolgers, let's go. Later.